We're almost into the 2-year mark of the pandemic between the lockdowns, masks, mandates enforced by elected politicians and bureaucrats. COVID-19 giving a new urgency to doctors who are running for office. My next guest is hoping to be Minnesota's next governor. Dr. Shah joins us now. Doctor, great to see you. Thank you for being here. You are obviously not a career politician. You're a career doctor. Why would you want to get into the political mix, as divisive as politics is these days?
No one wants into this snake pit that we're in, but if we don't step up and take back our country city by city, state by state, we're not going to have much of a country left to live in. And that's why ultimately I decided to join this race. I was tired of relying on the career politicians, trusting that they would do what was right. It's clear that they wouldn't and they couldn't when they were given the opportunity. So I decided to take matters into my own hands and help defend my state.
Now, your state is a blue state. You have a blue Democrat governor. They've gone through the regular blue state stuff of having the mandates and the lockdowns and such. Clearly, there are states like Texas and Florida that we mentioned earlier in the show that have been doing just fine without all the mandates, without all the lockdowns. Which direction would you take your state if you're elected governor?
Well, I think the direction's quite clear. I mean, the states that stayed open, that balanced protecting people that were at high risk of a bad outcome while allowing their economies to grow and recover, keeping their kids in school, giving parents the choice about whether they wanted to mask their children, and giving employees the choice about whether they wanted to take a vaccine or not. All of those states have succeeded. So when I look at a state like Florida, we need to import that kind of leadership, the kind of leadership that Ron DeSantis has shown in Florida, into other states and particularly into Minnesota. I'm running as a constitutional conservative, and I believe that those values are held by the majority of Minnesotans who are tired of the career politicians ruining our state.
Now, the disconnect between public policy and science is becoming clear. Actually, we saw it in the discussions with the Supreme Court when Justice Sotomayor came out with figures that were way off. She was basing her decision
just making things
so-called on the science when she was off by a factor of 30, talking about sick kids sick with COVID. So you see this disconnect, and yet you still see people like Dr. Fauci coming out and saying, I am science. If you disagree with me, you're against science. You clearly are a scientist. You're a medical doctor. How would you combat the federal regulators that claim to be the last word in science?
Well, really, we have to start by going back to the data and making our arguments from there. We're in the throes of an Omicron wave that is highly contagious, but fortunately 90% less likely to lead to death. And that's the CDC's own data. So when we look in particular at our schools and our kids, we've pulled these kids out, and now some places in Minnesota are going to distance learning again, having not learned a lesson about the damages that those types of programs can do to kids. And they're doing this for a disease that, according to Marty Macri at Johns Hopkins, has killed perhaps a few dozen kids. Now, those are all tragedies, but they're not a reason to lock down the country. And now, with a variant ripping through the population that's 90% less likely to lead to death, it makes even less sense to pull our kids away from schools. Kids are best served in their schools. We have to stop whipsawing our kids in and out. It has knock-on effects for employers as parents are forced to try to find coverage, which is exceedingly difficult or expensive. We have to keep our kids in schools, and we have to ensure that they're getting an education, now, and that it is a major priority.
As you know, there's a new governor in Virginia who won that governorship primarily on the basis of taking on the teachers' unions who were teaching stuff that the parents didn't like and forcing kids to wear masks, et cetera. How would you go against the establishment, the teaching establishment, including, of course, the unions?
Well, ultimately, the parents are in charge. And what Virginia showed us is the coalition of parents is unbeatable. And it's not necessarily left or right. These are people who want to keep their kids as the most important thing in their lives. They want to be in charge of their children's education. They want to decide if their kids wear masks. They want to decide where they're best educated. And pulling that coalition together led to a huge win for Glenn Youngkin in Virginia. And we believe that the same thing can happen here. Parents are frustrated. They want their kids in school. They're tired of the teachers' unions playing political science instead of following the data. They're tired of seeing the teachers' unions write public health documents And they're frankly going to fight back and make their voices heard in the 2022 elections throughout this country.
Doctor, we only have 10 seconds. Are you for school choice? Would you put your state on that route quickly?
100% for school choice. Parents of all means need to have the ability to choose where their kids are educated, not indoctrinated.
Dr. Neil Shah, maybe the next time we talk, you'll be Governor Shah. Good to see you, sir. Thank you very much for being here.
I appreciate that.
Appreciate
Thank you so
it.
much.